John Gray, welcome to the podcast.
Well, I'm really happy to be with you.
John, so as I just told you off camera, I read the first book in the Mars and Venus series. You are the author of, I think, is it 20 books at this point in the series?
Well, those are the best sellers. I've written a few
Okay.
more, 28 books. Not all of them are rather famous.
So the first book I read, and it's absolutely fantastic. I'm really fascinated about how we as humans work, and yeah, that's why I was really fascinated about your work. So yeah, first of all, thank you so much for coming on.
You're very welcome.
Could
Happy to be
you
with you.
could you for the people who may not be familiar with you yet, explain who you are and what you do?
Okay, so most people know me as the guy who wrote Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, because we probably got 100 million people who read that book around the world. I'm in 45 languages and all around. I taught my seminars in 22 different countries. I've been doing this for 50 years. So it's about, so I'm going to focus into, because you're around 25. I know a lot of people are going to be listening around 25, and a lot of them are going to be guys, but there'll also be some girls. So there's men are from Mars, women are from Venus. Now, usually what I hear these days when I walk around, probably for 20, I wrote that book over almost 27 years ago. And people used to always come up to me, say, "Oh, I read your book. It helped my relationship. Thank you so much." And now people come up to me and say, "My parents read your book. It helped their relationship so much." But I'm not as known to your generation, to 25-year-old. Okay, so the concept of men are from Mars, women are from Venus is, and we'll focus on relationship between man and woman. There's a lot of beliefs that we have because we don't really understand each other as men and women. So let's say you're in love with a girl, you like her a lot, and then you ignore her for a couple of weeks because you're busy with your guys doing something. She'll think, "Oh, he doesn't care about me." But actually, you need to have, your own me time, so to speak. And I call it cave time, because once you start living with a woman, it changes. You see, if you live in an apartment and she's over here, then you have time to do your own thing. You do your own thing, and then you start to miss her. And so now you come over to her and you're so attentive and interested, but then you get to go back to your apartment and you go back and forth. That's a very important thing, is that you keep your own life. Because if you have sex with a girl, for example, or you're caring about her and you listen to her, you're going inside of her. You're literally going into the female part of you, because we all have a male part and a female part. And the more masculine you go to, your male side, at a certain point, it's too much. And you want to balance and you want to go over to the female side. So one of the big popular ideas of Men Are From Mars was, we need our me time, or we need our cave time. And when women understand that, then they don't take it personally. So let's say, you haven't called her in a week. She goes, "Why didn't you call?" Well, why did she ask that? She could have called you, right? But she says, "Why didn't you call?" It's because she's afraid you were so interested, and then suddenly you're not, or you're not calling me, or not. That it's shocking to her. She doesn't understand why that would be, because that's not her major tendency. Now, certainly women can do that, but being a married man, usually when my wife isn't interested in talking to me or connecting with me, it's because she's mad at me. So she could easily think you're mad at her when you're not. You just you get close and you pull away. Can you relate to that at all?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, maybe not the not talking. But I was gonna ask you, because you said something interesting. So you do not have that much experience with talking to people my age about relationships?
Oh, I have a lot of experience.
Okay, because I was gonna ask you. So the book was written, the first book, before I was born, and do you think that things have changed in the way that men and women view each other since then, and especially for people my age?
Yeah. It's changed quite dramatically. And so that's why I wrote another book right over my head over here called Beyond Mars and Venus. But I want to cover some of the basics, because they still exist. Because, how have relationships changed since I wrote that book? If you go to Africa, relationships haven't changed. Okay, if you go to South America and indigenous areas where I've gone, both in Africa, they're the same as they've been forever. Okay, men are men, women are women. If you go to some of the tribes in Africa, women sleep in one place, men sleep in another place, boys sleep with their mothers until they hit puberty. And then the men come and take the boys to stay with them. And it's a big dramatic scene. They all expect it to happen. The mother pretends like, oh, don't take my child. And the men take the child. That's the initiation that takes place that forces males to go to their male side, because it's so much, particularly if you have a nurturing mother, you want to stay close with your mother and be close. Why have to go out with the guys? They're so tough and whatever. And you know, in the American Indians, it would look like Vision Quest. You know, when you start hitting puberty, when you get in pubic hairs, okay, that's your puberty starting. That means your testosterone levels are now going up, have the potential to go up 10 times if you pull away from your mother. If you don't, they don't go up. So you literally need, see, part of what I teach in my method, and if you go to university, what they want to tell you all the time is that we're all the same, but we're not the same. We're biologically hugely different. But particularly the you know, where you live, Denmark, right?
Yeah.
More socialism, everybody should get the same. Everybody should get the same.
Right.
Well, I'm not a big fan of socialism. I'm a fan of partial socialism. So the people who need help, we help them. But also, on the other hand, the people who can do it themselves, have pulled themselves up by their bootstraps, we pay them more. They get more. They have more. They do more. And that's very important in life for masculine energy. So masculine energy, if I don't do anything, I get nothing. If I do something, I get something. If I do better than somebody else, that's competition. Competition is so healthy. Do you have any kind of competitive sport that you do?
I work out, basic training. I did boxing. That's pretty competitive. I don't do boxing anymore. Yeah.
It's a good two good masculine things to do. You know, my one of my grandsons, he's just completely changed after he hit puberty. He's working out in the gym. You know, this is like really important stuff. And particularly he's working around other guys. So I know when I go to the gym, I really don't, I'm not a gym person. I went to the gym during the lockdown in America. So I had to do something. So I'm going to the gym to work out. And I see this guy, and he's like a little bit older than me. And meaning I'm 70 and he looks like 78. And I said, so how much can he press? He said, leg press. He says, 200 pounds. I said, all right, that's my goal. I'm going to do 200.
Yeah.
And so every time, what notch are we at? Next time we're going to go a little higher and a little higher and a little higher. Otherwise, if I just went in the gym and they give me the leg press and okay, I did that. Why do more? That's going to cause soreness anyway. Competition helps produce, and see, they're just behaviors, relationships, and not just male-female relationship, but my relationship with that 78-year-old. Well, heck, you know, I should be able to do as much as him, you know, so. And then my coach told me, you know, one day, John, you're going to be able to go up and down your driveway. I live on a mountain. Okay. He said, you're going to be able to walk up and down 3 times without being out of breath. I'm still working on that. Okay. But it's always in my head 3 times. I should be able to do that because he's this big, giant guy, mesomorph guy. Mesomorph means more muscular. And so he spends his whole life doing this. Well, I can't expect to be as good as him at this. I don't have the body type or the motivation or the interest. You know, for me, I took the route of rather than working out in gyms. See, as a young guy, I didn't understand something, which was body types. Body types. There's mesomorph body type means you have genes that produce more muscles. Period. So my older brother, a year and a half older, he's a mesomorph, and I'm an ectomorph.
Yeah, me
Ectomorphs
too.
You're an ectomorph, right? Yeah. So, how tall are you?
I don't know in feet. I am 168 in centimeters in metric. I think that's 5'5" maybe. I'm very short.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I'm short too. So let me just write that one down. What is that again?
168.
Okay, 168. No, that didn't do it right. It'll just take a moment. 168 centimeters. Okay, let's see what it is. Okay. You're exactly my height,
Okay.
5'6.5".
Five,
All
six
right.
and a half. Good to know.
So I went to the gym with my brother as a young kid, and he kept getting bigger muscles, and I didn't.
Yeah.
And I thought, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? So that's not a good thought to have. What's wrong with me? So this is why that knowledge is very important. Mesomorphs have more muscle mass, and they need to produce more muscle mass for their well-being. Now, every man is born with 25%, at least 25% more muscle mass potential than women. So that's one of the big differences. Okay. Even you see those girls working out, whatever, you still have 25% more muscle mass. Now you're not going to develop it like them because they could be mesomorph women. So they're really motivated to develop it and so forth, but they'll never make it to the man of their age and their height or whatever it is. It's just ridiculous. So there's these two distinctions, which is for me, because I couldn't compete with my brother, I found other ways to compete. So I became a good student. I was very good at math. Okay. So I found my place where I feel like I'm really good. I didn't completely neglect muscles. I did boxing, I did
Mm-hmm.
karate.
Nice.
That was another thing I did, martial arts. Then I became an entrepreneur. That was a very cool thing I did. I had my own paper route. Even before that, I because I was in karate, everybody was buying these karate outfits. I thought, well, I can just sew them and make them myself. So I figured out how to sew and make karate outfits. Then I got a paper route. In America, that's how a young guy can have his own business and selling the papers to the different houses. And I created a business where I had the biggest paper route in Houston because I had people working for me. I hired
Oh,
people and
wow.
other
Nice.
kids, I gave them a Coca-Cola with peanuts. And they literally worked for peanuts, but they were kids. They
Yeah.
come for
Oh,
peanuts.
that's great.
So I felt good about myself. And then I got to about 18 and I lucked out for me personally. I found my real calling for me. And I'd even suggest being a short ectomorph is actually a different body type than a pure ectomorph. It's not in all the books that have studied it. So just so everybody knows listening, there's the mesomorphs and then there's the endomorphs. Now they're going to be born with more fat cells, so they're more round. And ectomorphs mesomorphs, physical, they tend to be more physical in what they do. Endomorphs tend to be more emotional in what they do.
Hmm.
Okay. And they tend to be more feeling, they have more feeling, and they actually have more estrogen in their body, which gives us emotion. Men with muscles will have higher testosterone, generally speaking, which allows you to disconnect from your emotions, to be more detached. Then you've got ectomorphs, and you're a bit of an ectomorph, okay? Not as much muscle mass as the mesomorphs, not as much fat as the endomorphs, but you're going to be doing what you do right now, having a podcast,
Mm-hmm.
learning. You're interested in learning, providing knowledge, and that was for me. Ultimately, was to be a teacher, but not by studying other people's ideas, but more from my intuition.
Hmm.
And so this is where you'll find a part of you can think outside the box more easily than everybody else. You're still going to be interested in learning and teaching, interviewing, providing that information. But these are just sort of interesting things. And everybody's a combination of all of those things, right? But a short ectomorph is actually, instead of physical, emotional, mental, they're intuitive, the greater sense of intuition. And so you want to, continue to feel what you think is true and then look for evidence that is true and have questions.
Okay, really quickly, I'm super sorry to interrupt this episode of the podcast with John Gray. If you're enjoying it so far, I hope you are. Please consider subscribing to the podcast. The more subscribers we have, and in general, the bigger the podcast gets, the bigger the guests we can have on, and the more cool people like John Gray we can have on the podcast, and so ultimately the more value I could provide to you. So I like to view it as a win-win situation. Okay, so subscribe. Thank you so much and enjoy the rest of the episode.
So anyway, these are the ideas of our four body types.
But
And
is
from
that because now I'm tying it a little bit back to biology, I guess, because I suppose that shorter men are not as fit for hunting, perhaps, if we go back to our origins. Is so are we made, I suppose, shorter men and less muscular men made to Sorry?
We're the leaders. Look at Napoleon. A short men, because they can't compete physically, they can't compete these other ways. We find a way to compete,
Right.
which is to get everybody to do things for us. Say we lead the way. I know that there's a very funny story about that. When I was taking karate and doing karate around 12, 13 to 15, somewhere in that range, and was the best student there, very dedicated. I had to compete, I had to work really hard. And so I learned everything. I wasn't so much a great fighter, but I knew everything. To get your higher levels of belts wasn't about competition. It's learning all the forms. You have to be able to do this and all the moves. So again, and then because I was short, it was a novelty that I could kick straight up. I've been doing yoga since I was 3 years old. So I was very flexible and disciplined in that sense. I did my exercises, yoga exercises, which isn't so much muscular, but it's stretching the body, and it's not as much exertion, except you can do it with a way of exertion. Later, I do it with exertion. But because I was little, I was on the front of karate magazines. So now this little guy's getting all this attention. That was fine. It was all fun. But nobody at school knew I was that. So I'm in junior high school, and the teacher decides to publicize his karate place with a picture of me on the cover of the pamphlet to promote. So now everybody wanted to fight me. So then suddenly I had to create a group of guys where I was the leader of the club, and they would protect me basically. And I was,
Really?
I was the leader. So again, out of survival, what we do is find a way to bring people together to follow us as a leader. Okay, so that's a fun, interesting thing. But what I learned is it was good. Back in the 60s, we were all getting high on LSD, and mescaline and marijuana and everything. It was the thing, and sex. It was fun. It was all fun. And it wasn't all the time, but there was this rock festival like Woodstock, where there was 500,000 people there, and 3 weeks of just taking drugs and getting really high. So, and sex and, girls, and they're undressing, crazy stuff, right? And after 3 days, I came home and I was like dead. I mean, I was really dead, because what I learned is, and there was a time where the Beatles were very popular. I'd seen the Beatles, it was a big 60s thing. Well, the Beatles had just gone to India studying with an Indian guru, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi of the TM movement. And they said, if you learn to meditate, you can get high and you don't crash. I said, that's for me. So it was the perfect timing. And I didn't know anything about TM, though. I heard the Maharishi say that. I mean, I heard the Beatles talking about that. And then serendipity happened. The right thing at the right time happened for me, which is somebody told me there was a samurai warrior demonstration. Now I'm into that, all the karate and samurais and all that. So I was excited to go to this samurai warrior demonstration. It wasn't samurai, it was seminar. And it was a seminar on transcendental meditation. But when I heard the talk about the potential of meditation to develop your full mental potential, to develop your power in life, learn to meditate. And I heard this 45-minute or maybe 1 hour talk. I came home. My dad said, "Where have you been?" I said, "I went to this talk." He didn't believe me. He said, "Well, tell me what you heard." I could give that talk word for word. I was so inspired by that. And anybody in your age group, follow your inspiration. What inspires you is what you will become. Have mentors, people you like to be like, or what you're drawn to. And I was drawn to the message of transcendental meditation to develop your full mental potential to make your dreams come true. And it did. It worked. It wasn't the only thing I did. It was the beginning. And so I wanted to be just like the guy who was teaching this. It was the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi that the Beatles had followed. I went to Europe. I studied with him. I lived with him for 9 years. I became his assistant, his number one teacher of and I learned to meditate. I'm a master meditator in 9 years by being celibate. He was a celibate. If you want to develop your full mental potential in your 20s, I just want to say to guys, this is when your brain is still developing. It takes takes those 7 years in your 20s to about 27, 28, or 29 to fully develop your prefrontal cortex. That's your executive function. That's your capacity to hear people, to have creative thought, to think outside the box. It's compassion. You learn. It's the beginning of to be able to think about other people as much as you think about yourself. It's to know thyself. It's the ability to be upset, and you say, okay, why am I upset? That's called introspection. And this is what you have to learn in the 20s. Anything that upsets you, you basically look inside and say, okay, what am I thinking right now? Whatever I'm thinking right now is causing me to be upset. It's not the outer world. It's what I think about the outer world. It's what's my belief right now. So what am I thinking? So then you have to basically, if what you're thinking is causing you to be upset, then you have to change what you're thinking. So you have to question it. You have to challenge it. So what's my interpretation? Anytime something is upsetting you, that thought is that belief is upsetting you. So then you have to say, you question it. Do I know that my thought is absolutely true? Now, somebody just punches you, or you just lost a lot of money, or you did a bad grade, or you don't know what to do. That's reality. Okay, I agree. You punch me, and now I feel upset. But now, what am I thinking about your punch? And that is really the cause of what's upsetting you. Your body will heal itself. Your mind, what am I thinking? What's my interpretation of whatever, whenever I'm suffering or upset or bothered? What am I thinking? And what you're thinking, the fact that it makes you unhappy, it means you know for sure it's wrong. It is wrong. Now, what happened is true, but your interpretation of it is wrong. And if you want to say, okay, well, maybe my interpretation is right, continue suffering, because you can change your thinking much easier than you can change the world. So change the thinking by asking, do I know this to be absolutely true? No, there's no absolute truth about anything. It's just viewpoints. So that's one viewpoint. Okay, let me question. How does that viewpoint that I'm holding, that I don't know it's absolutely true, causing me to feel? What am I feeling? So then look at what your feelings are and know that, gee, wouldn't you like to let go of those feelings? I think so. So now let's look at what could be true. So I don't know for sure. And this was like when I was a young guy doing my first interview to promote some ideas I was teaching after leaving the TM movement and all that out there and just starting off. And I had anxiety. So I said, okay, what am I telling myself right now? Okay. And so then I looked at, do I absolutely know that to be true? No. What could be true? So now start looking at some other thoughts, other ways of interpreting reality, which could be true. And once you realize that this could be true, this could be true, this could be true, then try changing whatever the negative thought is into a completely positive thought and say, well, this could be true too. And imagine if it was true, how would it make me feel? Boom. And you're free from being stuck in that other thing. And then what you do is, how would it make me feel? Well, I feel grateful. I feel happy, I feel proud, and I feel love. Now, maybe not for the interviewer or whatever it is, but I love my life. I love being able to talk. I love the opportunity. I love my garden. I love I'm trying to go back to that time. I love my car. I can always love my car. I love making money. So, I love sex. So those are all things that were, but what I did for 9 years, which I know helped develop this prefrontal cortex, is I practiced not masturbating. Okay, not masturbating. And I was a celibate monk, so I wasn't. I postponed my interest in relationships till I was 29, which is where now you have the ability to know yourself. And anytime you're upset, you know it's you who's causing your upset. So nobody can upset you. They can trigger you, but then you look at, what am I thinking? And then change your thinking. In that process I just did. That's one way to change the thinking. And I've written books about this. So now you're ready to be in an intimate relationship, because when you have a partner, you feel happy when they're happy. If you're a guy, she's happy, you're happy. But when she's unhappy and complaining about you or disappointed with you or arguing with you, you're not happy. So you have to have the ability to, before really getting in a serious relationship, to be able to come back to your happiness. How does this sound?
Well, I have two things. There's so much to cover, and it's super fascinating. Talking about meditation, it's so interesting. I'm doing quite kind of similar to what you talked about. I question myself quite often. And I do these, I call them self-therapy sessions, where I question myself, look back on, say, my week, and was there something that bothered me this week? And figure out why did this bother me. I can come up with an example where this is a few months ago, or actually 6 months ago, I think, where I found a guy super annoying, super irritating, and it really frustrated me. And it was because this guy was making a girl that I really liked at the time laugh so hard. And so I questioned myself, why does the guy irritate me? That because he makes her laugh. And it's really difficult to have these conversations with yourself because you have to be really honest with yourself to figure out
This
why.
is, well, this is the most important thing, particularly for an intuitive. Self-inquiry, looking inside yourself, because that's your power. It's amazing power that I can change the way I think, change the way I feel. I don't have to change the outer world.
Right.
Other people, those other body types will have a little more difficult time doing what you can do. You're so suited for that because intuition is looking into yourself.
Right. Yeah, and so it came to, or I came to the conclusion that there's obviously nothing wrong with this guy. He's not annoying. He's a great guy. It all comes down to my own insecurities in that way because I wanted to make her laugh, right? And
Yes.
so these self-therapy sessions have been super helpful for me to figure out, learn about myself, and find out why I feel the way I do. I had on
So
another, yeah.
let me add to that one right there,
Mhm.
and have the same thing. Okay. And when another word for that is called jealousy. I'm
Yeah,
jealous.
yeah.
He's making, most people don't want to admit they're jealous. Oh, I'm not jealous. I'm not,
Hmm.
we're jealous. Okay, we're comparing. I'm not good enough. If it upsets me, then I'm jealous. But whenever that triggered inside of me, okay, where I would see something and I would start, being upset about something where somebody's doing something good, we'll say, or has more than me, or is getting what I want to be getting. My comeback to that always, whenever I seem to get close to that feeling, is I say, that's for me. That's for me. And
Hmm.
a lot of people have this with money. Again, in a socialist country, there's so much jealousy underneath and hatred towards people who have more. It's like
Mm.
we have this thought that everybody's supposed to have the same. No
Uh-huh.
way. Not everybody's supposed to win. If I was competing in sports and I didn't lose, I would have never been motivated to find what I'm good at.
Yeah.
And the fact when I find what I'm good at, then I want to be better than everybody as best as I can. Nothing wrong with that. I'm not putting anybody down. I'm just wanting to be the best I can be.
Hmm.
That's what competition is. And since you're seeing what's possible and you're saying, hey, maybe I can do that. That's for me. That's for me. That's inspiration. And that's so, so important. And women don't intuitively understand that as much as we do as men. See, if you actually look at the biological reality, and I will just share this, and I want to hear your second point you're about to make. The biological reality of men, and where you live, a lot of people think, oh, we're not that different. We're not that different. And you become the same because you become the same by telling men to be more like girls and girls to be more like guys. You become so much the same, but having a lot of problems in marriage these days, they're having a lot of problems keeping sex drive for the same woman. It's become so casual. So these are the problems of no polarity, where you're
Hmm.
more masculine than a woman and a woman is more feminine than you. If you want to keep that, that the excitement with your partner, for my wife, every week at least, I had great sex with my wife for 34 years. And now towards the end, it was more than once a week. I have a concept I'll get to is why you don't want to have too much sex, or how you can get to the place where you can have a lot of sex without it weakening the polarity. But anyway, so this sameness kills the passion, but you can feel passion in the beginning, attraction rather than passion, we'll say attraction. You feel this cool attraction when you're with your girlfriend, right? Well, primarily that's because she's new. Okay. Everybody gets this newness. That's dopamine in the brain. And in a man, dopamine increases testosterone. In a woman, dopamine increases estrogen. Estrogen is the feminine hormone. And I say it's the feminine hormone because for a woman to even experience well-being, just to be happy, she needs 10 times more estrogen than a man. Her brain, her relationships, her life has to stimulate 10 times more estrogen in her than it needs to stimulate in me. And my life, what I do, not my relationships, but what I do in terms of I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this is my goal. This is what I'm going to do to achieve my goal. By taking action to achieve my goals, to build my confidence over time, my testosterone goes higher and higher and higher. Say men need 10 to 20 times more testosterone than women just to be well-being. Otherwise, you're moody, you're procrastinating, you're pouting, you get irritable, you don't want to do stuff, you get lazy. All the worst characteristics of masculinity only occur when their testosterone goes down. And the worst characteristics of females is when their estrogen levels go down. For a woman, her normal level of estrogen that's being produced through her relationships, not so much by what she does. What she does produces testosterone. She doesn't need as much testosterone as us. We're just looking biology here, because I know I'm talking to Denmark, and Denmark, they think everybody's the same. And no, this is biology. Denmark, there's so many people taking antidepressants. There's so many people that can't sustain attraction in relationships. The only way they can have attraction is have 3 people, 5 people, get some whips in there. I just have good old vanilla, fantastic sex with my wife, which is I'm just loving her. I don't need the whips. I don't need the outfits. I don't need any of that stuff. I just need her. That's what love is about. Making love is with you. I don't need all this other stuff, just like I don't need to take drugs to be a happy person. I don't need to take coffee to have all this energy. I'm an energy source of love and happiness. Particularly, I get my testosterone by what I do, and I get my love by my relationships. And that's my estrogen. So the relationships have all changed if you don't have polarity where your relationships for women are producing more estrogen. And biologically, again, we'll look at biology, just test a woman's estrogen levels as she has an orgasm. They double. Okay, whatever, they double. And if she can't double her estrogen, because she has too much testosterone and she doesn't have enough estrogen, she'll want to have sex, she'll want to have an orgasm, but she can't have an orgasm. And then she can't be orgasmic. The idea for women is to just keep going on and on and on, and a man to last longer. And I know all the guys listening, they want to be able to last longer, because you're 25 years old. And if you look in the Western world, these are studies of millions of people. What we're seeing now is the average 20-year-old, in their 20s, has 20% less testosterone than they had 20 years ago, just 20 years ago. If you look at everybody on the planet in the Western world, and you go back 50 years, which is when we began testing hormones, everybody for their age group has half the testosterone levels of a man 50 years ago.
Yeah.
This is like not healthy. And we see all these relationship problems and antidepressant problems and, violence. What is violence but a man with low testosterone? Most people think violence is high testosterone men. No, whenever a man is violent and aggressive, his testosterone levels are going down and his estrogen's going high. So this is a mind-blowing concept. So in your relationship with your girlfriend, if you're angry, don't talk if you're a guy. Because talking when you're angry just makes you have more estrogen. What you want to do is separate, take time on your own, go hang out with some guys, go to the gym. Yeah. Or for you, I'm going to recommend as well, learn to meditate. And you're already doing it. When you do your self-analysis, introspection, that's meditation. And your potency, I just want you to know, goes up if you don't masturbate. I'm not saying you masturbate, but everybody does. They can't even do a study. And of course, see, I was a pure celibate. That's how I fully developed my prefrontal cortex. That's why I can go into meditative state for 18 hours. I can also work for 18 hours. It doesn't, I have unlimited energy because this is developed, and most people it didn't develop, and it can't fully develop if you're ejaculating all the time. Now, for me, I had the good fortune of never ejaculating for 9 years. As a teenager, I was, okay, because nobody ever taught me that masturbation only weakens you, okay? Masturbation is not a healthy thing. And in your culture, I know they think masturbation's a good thing. Now they're trying to say 3-year-olds should masturbate, and it's insane. Who are we in this new generation to think we know more than a tradition that's lasted throughout history? How did we get to the place who do we think we are? These are ancient, there's certain wisdoms, we can improve on those. But the number one issue about human beings, the most powerful driving force in humans, is the need to eat and the need to have sex. And yes, we can improve what we eat. And what you see is a lot of people improving what we eat is trying to go back to what we ate a long time ago, because what we're eating today is crap.
Yeah.
And everybody's sick from it. Well, it's also what we're doing with sex. What we're doing today with sex is destroying our life force energy, creating depression, anxiety, unhappiness, disease, sickness. Vitality comes from this primitive part of the brain, which is sex and food. So don't waste your sex energy unless you know your partner. You like your, I'm talking to a 25-year-old, right? So you're in love with your partner and they love you back and you're feeling love. If there's love and sex, now you're a human rather than an animal. Right. Every time you go back to being an animal, you lose touch with your prefrontal cortex. And so you're just a loser in life. And you just see that so many of the losers now are out there just masturbating all the time. So let me put it in a context. You're sitting there and you're 25 years old and you're not going to be making love to a woman. Because see, when your energy goes into a woman, it will come back to you. Because she's giving you love energy, you're giving her your sex energy. There's a circulation of energy. But you do it yourself, or you do it with a stranger, or you do it with someone you don't have love with. It's like I had $100,000 and I just lost it. I got to rebuild that $100,000 and I'm going to lose it again and lose it again. So how do you find your power? And I'm talking to 25-year-olds and 20-year-olds, and because sex is such a strong desire, even as a teenager. I wish somebody taught me how to masturbate as a teenager, because you get this erection and it feels really good. And somebody teaches you do this and then you ejaculate. You can masturbate without ejaculating, be totally satisfied. That's for me eventually I learned how to make love to my wife every day because I don't ejaculate. And that keeps her in the mood. As if when men finish, they ejaculate, they disconnect, then you got to build the energy to connect back. So it's the best thing I do for my wife is to keep her, in the potential place where she would enjoy making love with me. Not that we do it every day, but almost every day. And it's because I've learned how get really, really aroused, super, super aroused without ejaculating and not getting blue balls. Have you ever had blue balls?
Yeah. Super uncomfortable.
Yeah. Super uncomfortable. And ejaculation will prevent blue balls. It will take away that tension. That's what an ejaculation is tension is building up and you ejaculate to release the tension, but you lose your force. There's so much power, you want more. But if you're greedy, you want too much. You're trying to have an orgasm. You got to get out of the addiction. See, ejaculation is an addiction. There's nothing, if you take cocaine, you'll get a surge of dopamine. When you ejaculate, you get a surge of dopamine. It's massively addictive. There's an antidote for that. See what happens if you have sex with a woman you love. Now, biologically, a man's body produces a hormone called prolactin. If you have sex with yourself or you have sex with somebody you don't love, who doesn't love you, your body doesn't make prolactin. That's proven. This is a hormone of prolactin that actually frees you over time to the addiction of ejaculating. So
interesting.
Once you ejaculate a few times, your brain just remembers that. It's like if you take cocaine 3 times, they often say it's never going to be as good, and you're always going to be wanting it to have that experience again.
Right.
Well, couples all say, I wish it was like it was in the beginning. Well, it's better than the beginning for me because I freed myself from this lust for the ejaculation, the must-have ejaculation. Now, how can you train yourself at 14 years old and you got this big erection, which, by the way, only can occur, the full transition from childhood to teenage years only can occur if guys spend time with guys without girls around. See, this whole thing, too much guy, girl, same this stuff, bad for your testosterone, which is why it's 20% lower, why it's actually 50% lower than 50 years ago. You got a question?
No, I'm just trying to think about what you said.
Yeah. So what happens is, here's what can happen. This is what's taught in ancient cultures, okay, is when a boy starts having pubic hair, you take him away from the females. He can no longer go cry in mommy's arms. Now, if you look at biologically what happens, we have tests on people's development. For your first 2 years of life as a boy and during the womb, but when you come out, they can measure your hormone levels. Your hormone levels, if you're a boy, are the hormone levels of a grown man. They're totally up there for 2 years. And that helps develop the male brain. Okay, you need testosterone to develop your male brain. Then what occurs, and that's automatic, okay? It's just 2 years, it comes up, and it really can happen a lot better and faster and more complete if there's a father also taking care of the mother. If the mother doesn't have a father around taking care of her, that won't fully develop. That's also why we don't have people confused about their brains. Their brains boys didn't fully develop the masculine brain. But we know now that during the first 7 years, your brain is completely plastic. Okay, it can morph into whatever the environment says you are. So, what the feminists will often say is, oh, boys are different, girls are different. Just because boys wear blue, girls wear pink, and therefore you treat them differently. And I say, absolutely. That's why I'm a man, is I was treated like a boy and not a girl, because I need to be treated like a boy to stimulate my male brain, to raise my testosterone up, which is designed to be. See, they often say that culture determines who we are. I say, yes, culture molds us into being healthy or unhealthy. Do you think that a boy who thinks he's a girl is healthy? No, we call that mental illness. There's no question about it. That's mental illness. Gender dysphoria, where you hate your body, that's a mental illness. So we want to heal our children. The way you do it is you give them men around them, and they can't be around the girls. So for the first 2 years of life, you basically have the testosterone levels of 10 times higher. You don't get that fully if your father's not around taking care of the mother. If the mother is the father, then it doesn't fully develop. So you get a lot of almost all of the gender dysphoria happens in children who are absent fathers, strong mothers. And also a lot of them are on the actual autistic spectrum. 70% are on the autistic spectrum, which again is inhibited masculine energy. And I can explain that later. But there's so much I could say on this, but let me just come back to one simple point. It goes up 10 times for the first 2 years, and then the brain is hit, a switch happens in the brain, and now his testosterone drops, and he has the same testosterone and estrogen levels of a little girl. So we are like, we're vulnerable, we cry, we get upset about things. That's from age 2 to 12 or 13. That's when we need our mother's nurturing, because she's more feminine. She understands. She's going to be way more empathetic to what we go through than a father. Father can still be somewhat, and he needs to be there for sure, without a doubt, to keep supporting the boy's masculine side, but he doesn't need it as much. So we're more tender. So when people say, oh, you're wounded because you didn't get to cry as a little boy, it's true. But it's not the only reason men are different from women, or it's not the only reason that that we look at men who are like in jail, dysfunctional males. They always have absent fathers, unless the father was also a criminal and beat the mother. That's a dysfunctional father or an absent father. That doesn't strengthen what masculinity is. Masculinity is selflessness and service and competence and capable and logical and achieving goals and, having a sense of dignity, honor. This is all part of our masculine side. For our feminine side, we like to have fun. We have to have enjoy. We play. We laugh. We love. We trust. We depend on others. We ask for help. We have teachers that guide us. This is our female side. Now, why it's important to define these things is because at puberty, now to be a successful, not mentally ill male, you need to have 10 times more testosterone again. Your testosterone shoots up. You get erections. Now, once those erections are there, they just come in whenever they come. That's why we wear our shirts out. So nobody sees we have erections. So the erections are there. And what happens is somebody teaches us to do this, and it feels really, really good. And then we ejaculate. That produces dopamine. And then we want to do it again and again. That's not the nature to do it again and again and again. But what you can do, teach everybody listening, they should start doing what I'm suggesting rather than masturbating, is you can't do what I'm suggesting if you use porn. If you use naked pictures of women, it intensifies the erection, okay? And you want to ejaculate. It's too exciting. What happens is when you look at naked women or you go on porn and there's fantasy, it will raise your dopamine levels. But because it's a woman, or you're looking at a woman, it makes your estrogen levels go up. And your estrogen levels, whenever you're feeling estrogen going up, it's whenever you're eating ice cream, your estrogen levels go up. Okay. Whenever you do anything you like that's delicious, estrogen levels go up. So now you want to get attached to that. I want more and more and more of that. So you look at a girl, then you're just going to want more and more intensity, more and more intensity. The intensity builds up and you release it. Now you've trained yourself. When you actually have sex, you last 2 minutes. I can go as long as I want. Okay. It's like, if I do a class with 1,000 people, there's so much energy that comes to me the night before. I have so much energy that comes to me. I do it for 10 hours. And then the next day I have unlimited energy too, because that energy comes in. Why does that energy come in? One is people are thinking about me, but my reaction to them thinking about me is I'm confident I can give them what they want. So it's like you give yourself a big job that you're good at, you're going to have higher testosterone levels. That takes time. Okay. So competence and skill, that will take time to develop through life experience. So God gives us a good enough testosterone level kind of as a basic. But the average man now in our culture, because we have so low confidence and we're not seen, we're not celebrated by society as the guy who created this amazing world. If you take please never take it, you'll come out depressed. If you take one of these gender studies courses, all you'll hear about is the bad men on the planet. And yes, there's always some bad people. But who killed those bad people? Good people.
Yeah.
This is like, who invented all these things? Who did all this stuff? Women were a part, but the bigger part of it was women were loving mothers, or who there for those sons who went out in the world and sacrificed their life, sacrificed their happiness, did all these amazing things, built this. I mean, look at even right now, and it's always been the theme throughout history. Men, this is the nobleness of men. This is the heartfelt side of men, which is I'm willing to do the dirty, dangerous, difficult, disgusting jobs so that my wife doesn't have to do it. Even today, I said to my wife, I'm going to go out and work really hard, make a lot of money so you go out and have fun.
Yeah.
And she said to me, I'm so glad I don't have to feel guilty.
Why do you think women are so offended by this today, and why do you think women strive to make a lot of money and to be well educated, since it seems like that should be more what men want?
Okay, well, there's nothing wrong with women doing that. Now, why they want to do that, on a certain level, it's an evolution. So think about it. Let's say here we are as souls. These are my beliefs, and it's logical. Okay, so I have this soul, and I have, I'm so different than who I was 10 years ago. Think about how different I was from when I was a teenager, okay? Or when I was a child. And like right now, you're very different from the kid who played with toys, right?
Yeah.
You might enjoy it sometime, but you're more sophisticated, all right? You're more complex. It's evolution, is more complexity. So we have a soul, and when you look back at your childhood, you still think, that's me, I remember me, but I'm not that anymore. Well, the part of you that still says that was me, and I can remember me, the part of you that doesn't change, that's your soul. Well, that happens from lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. And so there's an evolution of the soul as we move on, just like in this lifetime, there's an evolution of the soul. But without the sort of esoterics of that, or the belief system of that, because most people don't have that experience of knowing that they lived in other lives and so forth. But in this life, you can see how many lives you've gone through as your soul develops and learns and so forth. Well, there's a certain place where women they've developed their feminine, and now their job is to start developing their masculine. And so they go back and forth, one life after another. Many of my lives have been women. Some of my lives have been men. I'm an esoteric master, so I know some of my past lives. So I go back and and then there comes a time once you're good at one side and the other side, evolution goes, now in this lifetime, I want to be both at the same time. I want to have all my feminine qualities, and I want to have my masculine qualities. And so this is a woman today. She feels, I don't want to just be condemned to my feminine side, so to speak. It's fitting too tight. Like for my mother, her dream was to have children. She had 7 children, and to live in a nice neighborhood and raise those children. And once the kids were raised, then she would have her job, and her job was a bookstore. And because she had beautifully matured, when she started her bookstore without advertising, it became the biggest esoteric bookstore in the world. Okay. And you had to build more and more buildings associated. I mean, but she never advertised. She was ready. She developed her feminine side, raising her children and her education. That was going to bit to her male side, but also then she went back to her female side. And now when she came back to her male side, she was super successful and super happy at the same time. So many women go to their male side, but they neglect their female side. You see, they neglect it. And hormonally, biologically, if her estrogen is not harmoniously balanced with her testosterone, she's stressed. As a matter of fact, anytime you measure a woman as producing stress hormones, if she's producing cortisol, that's called the fight or flight hormone, always, 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 doesn't matter what your culture is, doesn't matter anything, go test them. It's always the same biological response in her body. Her estrogen levels are too low and are lower than her well-being. And estrogen's too low and testosterone's too high. See, that's it. Now, for a man, when he's stressed, his testosterone levels are always going down and his estrogen's always going up. Whenever a man has an emotion that's negative, any negative emotion a man has, his estrogen levels are too high. Why can I say too high? Because you're in a negative state. So we say the optimal state is when you're feeling love and positivity. And that would be when his estrogen levels are high, or whatever they are. As long as they're positive, that means his estrogen is going up, but his testosterone is always staying high, 10 times to 20 times higher than a woman's estrogen levels. And when you have sex, again, we know the reason sex and making love feels so good is because for a woman, it feels so good. It's her estrogen levels are always rising if it feels good. And if she has an actual feminine orgasm, that is a vaginal orgasm. This is Freud talked about it. And of course, the feminist said he's wrong and this is ridiculous. He talked about a mature orgasm versus an immature orgasm. Immature orgasm is just stimulating your clitoris, okay, and build up a tension and release it. Actually, stimulating your clitoris doesn't make much estrogen. It stimulates testosterone. So she's just like a boy masturbating, basically, is stimulating her clitoris. Not wrong to do, because testosterone produces her desire to be penetrated. So you stimulate the clitoris. And for you guys that are having sex, make sure before you put it in that you've stimulated kiss, breasts, at least, love talk, and stimulate the clitoris for just enough time in order for her to get really, really excited and her the vagina to secrete water. So once she gets wet, then forget about the clitoris, even though she wants more of it, because she can get addicted to it just like a guy being addicted to masturbation. Right. Intensification. The point of sex is not to intensify pleasure, not to increase your pleasure. It naturally increases if your goal in sex is to feel and express more love, to feel the love for your partner and express it. I love you. And for the woman to say, do you love me? I love you so much. Do you like me? Do you think I'm beautiful? Are you happy you're dating me, or happy you're in a relationship with me? The other day when you're angry, are you still angry with me? No, I forgive you. Are you sure you forgive me for? Is it okay? The other day I ignored. See, this needs to be these are loving conversations of a woman's insecurity and a man's reassurance. See, this is the dynamic of the female side of it, is always seeking reassurance that I'm beautiful, that I'm loved, that I'm likable, I'm acceptable, that you care about me, you like doing things for me, you're not mad at me, you'll forgive me, I'm there, you're there for me, I'm the most special person for you right now. See, that's the female side. And what we do to go on the male side is not to express that. Even if you're feeling it, forget about it, suck it up. Your job is to give her the reassurance she needs. And when you give that reassurance, you're not going to feel any insecurity. You're going to build your confidence. You put it into words. That keeps raising her estrogen higher and higher as you fuck her, and your ability to last longer. It's effortless. You just keep expressing the love and letting the body do its thing. But first you have to kiss. First you have to breast. You got to get the clitoris going. It allows women to sort of feel this power of the clitoris stimulation. It's pleasurable. Then she can relax into her intercourse. And when you have intercourse, for the guys to know, don't go all the way in right away. It's too much stimulation. Stimulation produces tension if it's too soon, too fast. It's like you're in a deep meditative state and a big loud noise. Whoa, what's that?
Mhm.
You got to build into it. You see, you got to go in a little bit, go a little bit, tease her. She might want you to come in more. She should ideally want you in more than you want to get in more. That's how you get to the place of lasting a long time. But you have to free yourself of that addiction of I want to ejaculate, I want to ejaculate. And it's paradoxical. So when you're in there for a couple of minutes, you want it to last longer and it doesn't, but it's because your body says, I want to ejaculate. And the reason you want to ejaculate, you trained yourself to do this,
Right.
intensify in order to release. So you can undo that pretty fast by just don't use stimulation. If you just stop looking at any porn, stop looking at any magazines, you're going to get horny. Okay. You're going to wake up and that erection's going to be there. So it's looking at you. Well, what do? You say, hey, how you doing? And you stroke it. But you see, this is the bottom of the penis is the one that gets overstimulated. The top doesn't get so stimulated. And so but it's stimulated. It's not as sensitive. This is more the female side of your penis. This is more the masculine side. So you just stroke up. You don't stroke down. You don't squeeze the bottom of the penis. You just go up, up, up. And you get a nice pleasure out of it because your body says, I want to feel that feeling, but not enough to make you addicted to it. So it's kind of like if you're hungry, you eat vegetables, but you don't want to eat that many.
Yeah.
But if you have potato chips or chocolate or something with sugar in it, ice cream is for me. Oh, I'll take some more. I could keep going and going and going. I only eat ice cream in restaurants because they only give you a little bit.
Yeah.
There's no more to get. So I'm fine with that. But if I'm at home and I've got a quart of ice cream, look,
Be careful.
Be careful.
Yeah.
That's right. And I will finish it because I have a sense everything I want, I get. So if I want to finish it, I get. So some things are not good for me that keep out of the house. So anyway, it's such a change your life and what they call it, sharpening your sword. And that's what the guys would do. Literally, when you take the boy away from the mother, they take care of their arrows and their weapons, and they take care of their melee instruments and so forth. I don't know if they sharpen the sword, but I know that this is a very ancient idea and it works. And it goes just up like this, just the top of the penis, just gently stroking, and look at the clock. And now what you'll see is you're gonna be aroused. You'll be arousing yourself. You want to practice not being aroused, but by stimulating it. You're just feeling pleasure without the arousal of intensifying. But because you've masturbated before, it's going to feel really, really good. And then you start to see, if I continue this, I'm going to ejaculate. And you have to find that place where if I continue doing this, I'm going to ejaculate and then stop at that point. Just get up, go take a shower. Just get out of bed, do push-ups, use other muscles in your body or have other temperature get on your body. And you won't need to do it because you've got a goal. You've always got to set your goal. The biggest testosterone stimulator for males, and it would stimulate testosterone in women too. And women have a lot of testosterone, that it's just that men have 10 to 20 times more, and we need 10 to 20 times more. Otherwise, we're depressed or we're irritable, or we're pouting or procrastinating. We don't feel confident. We don't feel motivated. All of the good feelings we have as men is directly related to mindset, activities that we do or don't do that will raise our testosterone. Relationships with others, unless they're applauding us, has nothing to do with testosterone. It has to do with me alone. So before you really want to get married, you should make sure that you can be happy without a woman. You can have girlfriends and whatever, but you have to have a way to make you feel good. And in our culture today, having a job where other people depend on you and you can provide for them. And your confidence goes up as you get better and better at providing for other people. That's why you're 21 to 28 years old. That's your time to develop your confidence and competence. Look what I can do. I'm useful in the world. Then you're useful. So now when you're in an intimate relationship, like really when you fall in love and you're going to get married, that's a deep, deep love. You really feel certain. It could happen before. But there's going to be days where she cannot appreciate you. There's going to be days where she's going to hide from you. She's not going to trust you. She's not going to ask for help because she has to be strong. She's not going to reveal herself. And then she's going to be judgmental of you and critical of you as a result. And you're not going to get the love you gave to her. It's not going to come back. So what do you do at those times? Well, No problem. Nobody's perfect. She can't give me love all the time. Her whole life isn't about, she's not a perfect person who can always be feeling good and happy and fulfilled. So, but suddenly it feels like I failed her. Now I got other things I can do to make me feel good. Now, one of those things for me is I could go work. I could be in a bad mood for my relationship. I can come talk to you on this podcast and I'd feel great again because I know how to do this. It could go to the gym. I can do good. I'm competing. I'm getting better at it. I can walk up my driveway and get stronger and feel my successes at that. It can be so many different things. For me, particularly, I can do it by meditating. I think you as an intuitive would do really good to also, well, you have your self-reflection process. That might be enough. You might try learning some traditional meditations as well. But what you do there, Ramana Maharshi, a great Indian yogi, that was his technique, is what you do. Self-reflect, self-reflect. All my books are filled with self-reflection techniques as well. And to look at, why am I feeling this way? What is the thought that causes this? Why do I think that? Do I know that's true? No, that's not true. What are other ways of thinking? And that's what I've sort of done with my books. I've given women another way of thinking about men. You know, when men are ignoring you, it's not that he doesn't love you or care about you, but he needs to be building his testosterone in a non-personal setting. Now, you didn't relate to pulling away from women. That's because your culture has feminized you. So you're more comfortable. This is what the culture has done to you. So, but see, my testosterone is so high that when I connect with my children or my wife, my testosterone goes way down. So in order for me to come back to my powerful self, I need to pull away to do that. Now, if I'm not used to having a powerful self, then I can spend time with my kids and my wife all the time because I'm not missing anything.
Right.
But I'm missing something. I know who I am. You know, I'm confident, I'm capable, I'm successful, I achieve what I do. I go set my, this real power there. Now, if you look at men's testosterone levels, again, these are big studies that are done. The men with the highest testosterone for their age group. Now, this is always in their age group because according to our society, testosterone goes down. For me, it didn't go down. I'm 50% higher than what I was as a young man. I'm just ready to go all the time. Unlimited power and energy at 72. And I expect it to keep going up as I get older.
Interesting.
It's only gone up for me. Okay. This is all going, I test it and so forth. So it's learning polarity, masculine qualities. I ground myself in my masculine, which now means I can be more feminine than ever before without giving up my masculine. If I have a woman, see, by having a wife who upsets me, that pushes me to my female side. Now I have to come back to my male side and learn to transform that negative emotion into positive emotion. So now I'm on my male side doing it, but on my female side with positive emotion. So I'm not like just some guy who has no feelings. I have tons of feelings. It's just most of my feelings are always really, really positive. And if they're negative, I process them with a few minutes and come back to having positive feelings. And who processes them? My male side. I analyze it, I explore it, I let it go. I always know that whatever's upsetting me is a false belief. If it was truth, it wouldn't upset me. Truth doesn't. Truth empowers you. So that's the male side. So you're doing your self-analysis to keep yourself from becoming so feminized by your culture, which is feminizing men. It's just like, if you're more like a girl, you're like doing the right thing. A lot of this came from psychology. If the only kind of experience I have of men, remember, psychologists do counseling. They learn about people through counseling. Well, 90% of the people who come to counseling are women. So, when women complain about their husbands over and over and over, that's all they do. They complain about their husbands. And so then it's like, as a man, if I'm listening to this, I think, well, the solution is just for men to change. Well, no, the solution is certainly for men to become better and better and better, but it's also for women to change their thoughts and beliefs and expectations about men and what is a good man versus a not a good man. To help a woman, you can help her by really exploring her feelings. So they think, well, let's do this for men. You can explore their feelings, get them to express their feelings. That's what you do for a woman to help her feel better. Why does that make her feel better? Just talking about your feelings raises estrogen. When you're stressed, her estrogen is low. Just get her to talk. It can be positive feelings, negative feelings. It could be smart feelings. It could be wrong feelings. It doesn't matter. And so if you don't have any discernment, you're just Women go in feeling like victims and they go out feeling like victims, but they go out feeling good
Mm.
and they're still victims instead of realizing that they're the source of all their problems, just like I'm the source of all my problems. And yes, there are problems around me, but first I have to feel good in my heart before I can change anything. If I'm depending on someone else to change before I can feel better, I'm a loser. I'm a victim.
Mm.
You have to change before I can feel better. No, that's not my reality. My reality is if you don't make me feel good, well, okay, first thing I can do is look inside, feel better, feel good, and then I can reevaluate you and I can ask you to change. And this is what women don't realize. Their power with men is not to try to tell men to be a certain way, ask for help. See, women in Denmark don't ask for help. They have rules. You should do this.
Yeah.
You should do this. Not like, hey, honey, you're looking at those other women. It makes me feel uncomfortable because I'm insecure. And it makes me feel like you think they're more beautiful than me. I know that's probably not true, but I need to hear that I'm beautiful. And if you're staring, it's really embarrassing to me. So as a gift to me, would you not stare, but look fine? There's nothing wrong with that. I know men like women. Why not? I like to look at pretty things too. And then show more attention to me. So it's a simple way. I adjust myself a million different ways, not because something's wrong with me, but in the presence of my wife, I adjust myself. When I drive very differently when I'm alone than when I'm with my wife, because nothing's wrong with the way I drive. I drive way better than my wife. But, she has accidents. I don't. I drive fast and I'm safe and whatever. She doesn't. Okay. So I'm happy that I can drive her, have her feel safe. So I'm happy to adjust the way I drive because she holds the handle and I say, okay, that means I should slow down for your comfort. So I'm here for your comfort, but there's nothing wrong with my driving. It's just that I want to be considerate of you because you're sitting in the seat, powerless. So I have to be respectful of you in that situation. But the whole idea is a woman, at the beginning, Bonnie said, you shouldn't drive so fast or you shouldn't go through yellow lights. You should stop. I go, wait a second. That's your set of rules. That's not my set of rules. There's nothing wrong with those set of rules. But I will respect your set of rules when I'm with you. No problem with that. And then there's the whole dynamic of men when it comes to communication. If I'm talking to another man, he talks about a problem, I have no problem saying, oh, you ought to do this and this and this. And oh, that's a good idea. If it's not a good idea, say that's not a good idea. But if my wife's talking about problems, I understand that talking about feelings and problems and negativity actually raises estrogen in women. So I'm not going to interrupt her and give her a solution. A man, I would do it. I don't need to do it with her. I want to help her. So how do I help her? Ask more questions. So this is your number one dating skill, relationship skills. When a woman's talking, before you respond, say anything about what you think, ask more questions. Tell me more about that. Help me understand that better. What else? And she will talk more. There's always more to say. And if she can't, that means she's way on her male side. So you patiently come back to, and if she's on her male side, guess what she's going to do to you? She's going to say, what are you feeling? What's going on? And as soon as you talk, you're on the female side. You destroy the polarity.
Right.
So I tell men, I'm going to talk about, all these things are more dramatic when you're married. So I'll take a married example here. You come home, you're in your cave. You need time to just forget the day. For you, you need to introspect. You might need, some guys, more physical guys need to watch a football game or watch the news, okay? It distracts them to forget the problems of the day. Because see, what builds testosterone is solving problems. And at the end of the day, you can't solve the problems. So you have to detach from the day. And so if you're thinking about all the problems of the day and there's nothing you can do about it, your stress levels are just going to go up. You're just going to feel more worried, more concerned. You have to say, stop thinking about the day. That's what meditation is stop thinking about the day. Forget it. Let it go. Deal with it tomorrow when you can do something about it. And so men have different ways to decompress from the day by forgetting the day. And basically, we need to forget the day by doing something, and that will produce testosterone. And that's called hobbies. Men had hobbies. And for thousands of years, all of men's hobbies did not include women. Get out of here, man's club. I try in America, it's so feminized here. I want to teach a class just for men. I can't. A woman says, I want to be in the class and I can sue you if you don't let me in. Legally, I can now create a men's club. So it's now club rules as opposed to making it open to the public. But if
Right.
it's a public event, have to include women. This is the
That's
stupidest thing in the world.
crazy. Yeah.
It's crazy, crazy. And now what we're doing in America is that men can be included, pretend to be a woman and go into the woman's restroom.
Yeah.
This is so disrespectful of women. Women are finally getting it, that they want separation from men. We
Yeah.
need to. Now, what happens here? So you have had this experience as a young guy, you were turned on to a girl, then you're not that turned on, so you're not interested in her anymore. You find one, you stay a little bit longer. Men are all going to be different with this, but the bottom line is, why are you so attracted in the new relationship? It's because dopamine gets produced if there's sex, potential sex, and it's new and different, and she's different from you. She's got a vagina, you've got a penis. Boom, that's going to knock testosterone up. First, it knocks dopamine up, new and different, and then it's sexual. It then knocks up testosterone in men and knocks up estrogen in women. Now, once you've been in relationships a long time, people go, oh, the passion's gone. In your generation, usually people will break up. They can't sustain relationships because they're not turned on. You're not even getting erections anymore. It's just gone. She's not wet. She's not wet at all. She didn't even enjoy. I talked to these feminized women today. They don't even feel pleasure from a penis in the vagina. They just do it for the guy. Some of them. This is what Freud talked about. There's two types of orgasms. There's orgasm from vaginal stimulation by a penis, okay? And then there's clitoral stimulation, which is the immature orgasm. And that's why you don't want to just get important for women to be stimulated with the clitoris. That's important. But it's making primarily testosterone. And the big orgasm a woman has is when her estrogen levels will go really, really high. And that's why you do play.
The clitoris orgasm that raises testosterone is super interesting. I didn't know that, but it kind of makes sense, I suppose, because a penis is an evolved clitoris. We all start out as women in the womb.
Yeah,
and
the first 3 weeks for girls.
Yeah, and then the clitoris evolves into a penis if we become men. So that's pretty interesting.
Exactly. It's now the way I know that to be the case. See, all my theories are based on pure logic. So this is a fun story for you to hear. The feminists are always, talking about why weren't women in government? Well, first of all, women were pregnant with babies until there was birth control. So you have no time to be thinking about government and all that stuff. But then there's another reality all the way back to the Greek days. I'm going to try to say this real fast. But in the Greek days, 25% of the population had what's called hysteria. They were hysterical women. Now, and the only women who were hysterical were rich women. Because the bottom line is that in that culture, it was a status symbol both for her and for her husband that they're so rich that they have more slaves. And the slaves do everything for her. She doesn't have to, she's not allowed even to do things for herself. That would be like you're a commoner. So you have people do everything for you. Now, when people do things for you, that's why romance is man doing something for a woman. It raises her estrogen. But when the man's not around and everybody else is doing stuff for you and you're not doing anything for yourself, if you don't do things for yourself, you don't make testosterone. So women had low testosterone and super high estrogen. That creates, it's not the common emotional problem today. But if you have complete estrogen and little testosterone, because you're not doing anything to make you happy, your husband's doing it all, the money's doing it all, you have slaves that do it all for you. So, and that's a status symbol. You're supposed to be happy, but rich women are rarely happy. Okay. And even today, rich women are rarely happy. Okay. They're taking antidepressants. They're divorcing their husbands. Come on now, let's look at it. But when you have people doing things for you, primarily, that means your estrogen can go too high. See, that's another imbalance. So when estrogen goes too high as a woman and not enough testosterone, they will experience hysteria. They'll become hysterical, which Freud then sort of would say you're dramatically overreact. You become a drama queen, or a drama queen at least has more testosterone than just hysteria, which is, oh, I can't take it. And they would faint. All throughout the 18th century, it's true. These women would faint. Not all women. You have to remember there were some women, their soul was wanting to evolve to be not just feminine, but also masculine and feminine. But still respecting that you're a woman in your female body. Women will never have the testosterone levels of a healthy man. Okay. And a man will never have the estrogen levels of a healthy woman. Okay. This in her prime. Okay. So here I came across this understanding is And in the year 1900 was the first medical invention was the vibrator. They had a paddle machine. And if a woman had depression and hysteria, they would go to her doctor's office twice a week and be paddled on her clitoris. And what was happening there, when you're paddled on the clitoris, your testosterone levels go up because the anxiety would go away. I just looked at it from the hormonal thing. If your estrogen is too high, what brings it down is stimulate the clitoris. So that can't, like the old thing was when a woman was starting to get hysterical, she'd say, slap me. Just give me some danger, so I'll go to my male side. Because when women feel threatened and they're in danger, they go to their male side. And part of the whole feminist movement is that the soul was ready to move forward, but men were not that accepting of women in the workplace because this is what our tradition, okay? And then now women are coming in there and they're rather unhappy about the workplace. And because the workplace was designed for men, not against women, but just designed for men. And it's not designed for women. Now we're changing it a lot, which I think is great, making the workplace designed for men and women, more teamwork, and getting more support. But communism, socialism just leads to communism. It's coming. Just means everybody gets paid the same. If everybody gets paid the same, women will be busy, busy, busy. Men will lose interest. Why should I work hard if I'm going to get paid the same?
Yeah.
That's our male side. So this is what they're sucking out the masculinity of all the young men today. So by minimizing things like competition, for example, the other side of that is putting importance on expressing your emotions and your feelings. And so when a woman in a relationship, she'll start to say, well, what are you feeling? And what's going on? Really what she's feeling is insecure. And she's wanting to know that you still like her. Because if you're not so connected or so happy, did I do something? Did I not do something? So she's going to want to ask you what you feel. Wrong direction. Basically, if you ask a woman what she's feeling, you're penetrating her. You're the male. If a woman's trying to get into you, she's penetrating you. It makes you a female. It raises your estrogen levels. It weakens you. And by the way, it puts you in the friend zone. She'll lose interest in you if you don't lose interest in her before. So we're all dependent on this newness to get a surge of masculinity and surge of femininity inside of us. Now, when the newness goes away, you're left to no hormone reaction at all, unless you have polarity. Polarity is what we think of as magnets. A positive pole and a negative pole. And basically, you don't notice the difference that much until you get naked. That means that when they get close, boom, there's that passion right there, that connection. They lock in. That's what sex is. If you have polarity, if you have no polarity, you're done. And that's what they're doing to the world. They're trying to create a sexless society. When Mao had his socialism turn into communism, no, there was no difference between men and women. We all wear the same uniform. We're not men and women anymore. We're comrades. This is how you control a population, is you weaken the males, because the women in danger will always look to a leader and be obedient. Men won't. If you're masculine, don't mess with me. Don't with my family. I'm not doing what you say. I'm not gonna yield to a tyrant, because every government throughout history has become tyrannical. And right now, the Western world is becoming tyrannical. You see it most in America and Europe with all of the supposedly democratic countries where we have freedom of speech. We don't anymore. Everybody's feelings are so hurt by it. The first lesson in life I learned from my mother, Johnny, sticks and stones may break your bones, but words cannot hurt you. Yeah. This is we've all become too hypersensitive, and hypersensitive is too estrogen dominant, way too much estrogen dominant. And what that means is that, yes, women need estrogen, but they also need testosterone. And so they don't go into too much hysteria, they have to go to their male side to balance it. And then in sex, they get addicted to their little clitoris, and then they use vibrators. And that's as foolish as a man having sex with a robot. Okay. I tell people in my class that when I was a little boy, I wasn't allowed sexy pictures at 13 or 14. So I would go downtown to look at the mannequins when they were changing the clothes on the mannequins, and that would turn me on. See, you don't need, as a boy, your testosterone to go up 10 times if you just do masculine things. And now look at the foolishness of what they're doing in America, giving boys who already have mental illness, thinking that they don't have they're in the wrong body. So they don't have they have this mental illness. That means self-hatred, basically, hating your body. So they're going to, oh boy, I think I'm a girl. So let me have female hormones.
Yeah.
Rather than affirming what the boy is, you're a boy, let's give you male hormones. Why give female hormones if you got a body? It's only going to create disease and distress and more suicide. This is all absurdity of crazy people.
It's horrible.
It's nuts. So anyway, I was mentioning the statistics of the men for their age group, because on average, men's age group goes down now 1% every year. Okay, so this is for the men in my men's group. I'm in our 70s. They don't even get erections. I have a rock hard erection every day. I'm a young guy because I understand polarity. Polarity keeps me masculine. See, masculine isn't evil. Some people, oh, you're so masculine. I'm not evil to anybody. Everybody thinks I'm so nice. I'm so generous. I'm so loving. I don't get mad at anybody. I got both sides. I learned to do that by creating polarity in my relationship, by being respectful of the female, my wife and my daughters, by being respectful of them, honoring them. I connect with my female. And the actual act of being respectful is masculine. It's sacrificing what I want for you. I'm yielding what I want for you, honoring you. But at the same time, I also respect myself, which I take time for me. So I have my happiness, but I become happier in my family and my marriage, become happier with a woman. And a woman looks to a man to be happy, big mistake. Women should look to her life, her girlfriends, her work, all the various things in her children, whatever it is, that makes her happy. Look to me for happier. Say, I'm the guy who can bring you to higher levels. Think of men as dessert. It's such a positive way of looking at things. So the study was done on all of these different age groups, and they found in every age group, the men who had the highest testosterone were single.
Interesting.
And then the next group where the men go down a notch, and it's men who are in a committed relationship with a woman. Now go down to the next level, and it's men who are married. And go down to the next level, it's men who are retired or have grandchildren. Each level means, if you look at the takeaway from that, is that the more a man opens his heart to someone, the lower his testosterone goes. So at the more my estrogen testosterone is like this. But if you have polarity, his testosterone stays up, her estrogen stays here. But without polarity, basically, if I'm feeling more love, my testosterone level starts to go down. And this was a big key thing for you to understand as a young man. I had sex as a teenager. I don't know if you did, but probably if you knew about my sex life as a teenager today, I'd be put in jail. I was a teenager, okay? So, but girls were all ages, who came to me. Not that many, okay? But we were, eighth grade, we weren't actually having intercourse, but there was a lot going on. It was so much fun. Okay, anyway, so the point being is that my first time I had sex, I still remembered it so clearly, it was my sister had a friend who needed a place to stay and knocked on my bathroom window, and she said, "Can I stay with you tonight?" I said, "Okay." And, there was a Beatles song called "She Came In Through the Bathroom Window." So she climbed into my bathroom window, changed her clothes in the closet. She changed her clothes and came out with a little see-through top and little panties. And I'm like, oh my God, this is like she came into the bathroom window. And then we got into bed, and without talking, I didn't know who she was. I knew her name. That was it. And just a little bit of touching. She's heating up. I'm heating up. She grabs my penis. It's all over, pal. We had my first sex was a great experience. It was fantastic. And now I'm lying there after we're done, and I'm starting to feel like can't breathe. I was just too young to be having sex, and I couldn't breathe. I just needed to get away a little bit. I needed a little space, and I was sleeping on the edge of the bed, and that was fine. And then it's very natural after you ejaculate to pull away. It's to detach.
Right.
Why do you detach? Because ejaculation is a surge of estrogen higher than your testosterone. And that estrogen just knocked down your testosterone. And so to rebuild your testosterone, you need distance. So naturally, you don't know all this is going on. You just go, I'd rather just go pull away a little bit. I need a little breathing space. And I sleeping farther on the side of the bed, but it was a little bed. All right. So that I couldn't sleep. I couldn't sleep. I felt fantastic, but at the same time, it was like I couldn't sleep. So then I laid on the floor. I felt some relief, and I feel really bad about it now. And I apologized to her later. But I got on the floor, and she said, "Is everything okay?" And of course, this must have really hurt her feelings. Feel like he was so close to me, and I didn't hear me. What's wrong with me? So now I'm on the floor. And I said, no, that was wonderful. I loved it. That was great. I have a back issue. Sometimes I need to lie on the floor. She went to sleep, and I couldn't even be in the same room. I had to now go. I got on my motorcycle, and I drove to a friend's house. I woke him up, and I talked for the whole night. And all I talked about is, why do we need a stupid piece of paper in order to have sex be a good thing? This was the greatest experience of my life. Well, there's a whole reason for all of that, which is you have that piece of paper saying you're married, so that the woman you have sex with in those days, there's a consequence to sex. You can have a baby with somebody, and a woman would be foolish, and the parents of that young girl would be foolish to encourage her to have sex and have a baby with some guy that doesn't even care about her.
Yeah.
Make sure he's willing to commit to take care of that child. And that's what that piece of paper is. It says, because I'm going to have sex with you now, and there's maybe a baby, and I'm taking responsibility for that baby by taking responsibility to be the man by your side. Because the destruction of our culture today, I know in America, I don't know what it is there, but in America, you have, in the Black community, it's the worst. 70% of Black boys growing up with their homes is single mother family. There's no father there. That means violence is only the expression of low masculinity. Violence is high femininity in a man. So when they say, "Oh, these masculine men are violent," no, if a violent man a man does not get angry. He may he can become violent to protect against violence for sure, but it won't be out of rage or fear. It won't be out of stress. It will be because it's the right thing to do to protect my family. And you want that in your man. Every man's got that in there. I will kill to protect my family if that's my only solution. It's just that there's so many other solutions called communication, called negotiation, called all these things. And it's only corrupt governments that create war. The only reason we have war is corruption. We have very, very corrupt men and women. And again, they always say it's all the corrupt men. Look at the lady the Iron Woman of England. She was the biggest supplier of munitions around the world for war. That's how they made their money, is through war. And it was a woman saying, "We're all for it." It's just, now we know. All of our biggest war hawks in America, women. These women are out there. This one lady, I forget her name. It's not like women are not violent. Women can be just as violent as men. It just depends on the circumstance and the setting, as how masculine is she. How disconnected is she from love? That will make a woman violent, but man becomes how disconnected he is from his masculinity. And then what you have is dysfunction and mental illness and violence. This is a crazy world. But boy, this crazy world, we somehow made it through. We got people, vibrant health, living longer than most people live, happy, fulfilled. All I see in my life is, I just taught a course this weekend. People are crying because they come back again telling everybody, my marriage changed and we have love. My husband's so great. My wife is so great. I see it every day. But what we see on the news is just the dysfunctional people. Yeah. They just advertise dysfunctional people. New and different are dangerous, stimulates dopamine. And we've become a dopamine society. So please, man, don't destroy yourself by looking at naked pictures on here. It will produce higher dopamine than ever looking at a real naked woman. It's on the computer. We know stimulating. See, everything I see on my computer is really a fantasy. Those people really aren't there, right? So it's a fantasy. It's a mental. We know it's real somewhere else, but right here on the screen, it's a fantasy. Fantasy produces way more testosterone. So as you get bored in your relationships, then therapists will say, you should do fantasy role playing. Oh my gosh, you got me talking so much. Have we gone over time?
Do you have another meeting?
Oh, yes. I have one after another. I just was really late. So sorry. So this started at 1 to 2. Oh, you were such a good listener. Just pulled out all my best stuff. So
So,
Patrick, we can do another one, but I hope men got the idea of the carving this, owning your masculinity, and understanding that your culture is feminizing you. Nothing wrong with being masculine. Men are the heroes, and so are you. And I got to run. I'll talk to you
yeah,
later.
John, can you, if you have a minute, please promote where people can find your work?
Thank you for asking. You can go to marsvenus.com. And every guy's got questions about girls. My adult daughter has got all these videos about girls and women, what they want, what men want. It's so great. And I, of course, have them there too. They're free. Go online and do it. Every guy, there's a course you have to pay some money for, not that much, for my course on secrets of great sex. And for every woman, you can watch it with your girlfriend, called Understanding Men. It's a 6-week course. Change your life. Everybody says, I wish I knew this when I was younger. So you're younger now, so go for it. marsvenus.com.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, John. And I'm sorry we went over time.
No. I'm not going to think about it. I'm just going to move on. My people are flexible. Thank you so much.
Thank you, John. See ya. Thank you for tuning into this episode of the podcast with John Gray. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider subscribing to the podcast. I say this every time, I know, but I do consider it a win-win situation for the both of us. If you subscribe to the podcast, the podcast gets bigger, and the bigger the podcast gets, the more value I could provide to you, because the bigger the guests become on the podcast. So consider it, and when you're done considering it, please actually subscribe. Thank you so much, and until next time, peace.